Hello everybody, this is City Scrapper. Thanks so much for joining me on my channel today. Today I have my third layout that I made using the July My Creative Scrapbook limited edition kit. This kit features papers and embellishments from the Prima Nature Lover collection. I decided I was going to try to use a cut file for this particular layout, and I found a really nice cut file from Pear Tree Cut Files, and those are available on the My Creative Scrapbook website, and it says do your own thing. So I backed it with some of the beautiful papers from the collection, and I will be showing that to you again in a little while. Right now I am making a mixed media background. The background is being made on some white heavyweight cardstock, and I have already coated it with some white gesso, and I'm adding some Tim Holtz Distress Oxide sprays. I'm using some dark blue, and those colors are Chipped Sapphire and Blueprint Sketch. I also used Mowed Lawn, which is that bright green color that you see, and I'm also going to be using some peeled paint. So you can see that I use the packaging technique. I squish the color down, and then I'm also using some splatters, or I'm also applying some splatters, and then I'm using my heat tool to dry everything. Now I'm going back and I'm adding some more sprays to the background. One of the things I love about a mixed media background with a cut file is that you can just keep layering the cut file on top of the mixed media, and you can see whether or not you have enough mixed media in the right places. And I make a mistake with that a little bit later in the video, but you'll see that soon. So now I'm using the stencil that we got in this month's kit, and I'm putting it over the Distress Oxides, and I'm using a baby wipe, and I just want to create a little bit of texture. So I'm just rubbing the baby wipe onto the Distress Oxides to lift up some of the color, and I am pretty happy with the way that that looks. I continue with the baby wipe and the stencil till I have gone over all of the area of color. And now I'm adding some splatters to the background, and I add the splatters in both colors of blue and of green. And I just love the way the splatters look, especially with the texture that's in the background. I also love to sprinkle some water on mixed media backgrounds and then use a piece of paper towel and dab up the water, and then it just makes some cool water droplet effects on the background. I have done quite a bit to the background, so I'm going to take this heat tool and I'm going to dry it really well. Now I'm adding some white acrylic paint splatters. The paint is watered down a little bit, and it's really important for the Distress Oxides to be dry so that the Distress Oxides don't get absorbed by the white paint, and then the paint doesn't look so white anymore. Now I'm going to add a little something to the cut file. It's already back with the pattern paper, and I was looking at the word own, and I was thinking that I just wanted to add a little something extra to it. So I was thinking that it would be a good idea to add some texture to it using some texture paste and acrylic paint, or modeling paste, or molding paste. I've seen it called all those things, but it's all basically the same thing. And as I said, I mix it with some acrylic paint so that it'll be white. And then I'm using this Tim Holtz stencil. It's called, I believe, Dot Fade. And I use that all the time on cardstock when I want to add a little bit more texture. It's just a very, very tiny circle, and it's a little irregular, and I like that. And I use a little bit of washi tape to make sure I didn't get any of that texture paste on the rest of the cut file. So I let that dry, and then I turn the cut file over, and I'm going to pop it up on some foam. Usually I don't worry about what color fun foam that I use to back or pop up whatever I'm popping up or backing, but for this particular cut file I saved some white fun foam because I knew that I was going to be cutting very thin strips to be popping up that word own, and I thought that if I didn't cut the strips quite thin enough, or if the fun foam moved around a little bit, you wouldn't be able to see like a bright color like yellow or pink from the front. So I thought keeping it white would keep that from happening. And now this is a little embarrassing. If you look at the background, it's turned on its side. Where I'm putting the color right now, that's supposed to be the bottom of the layout. I don't know how I didn't notice it, but leave it to me to switch it up and not notice it for as long as I don't notice it. So I'm trying to extend the color a little bit because it didn't go underneath the O in own. And I actually have to do this again later on because the same thing happened when I turned it the right way. So I add a little bit more color, and you could see that I'm taking the stencil and the baby wipe and I'm adding a little bit more texture to the background. And now I'm going back to that area and I'm trying to get it to match into the background. So I added some blue and I probably added a little bit too much water to it. And now I'm adding some of the green mowed lawn color and just trying to extend that color a little bit. And I'm trying to do all of the things that I did to the rest of the background to have it match in. I am doing the texturizing and I'm adding some white splatters. And while I'm at it, I add a few more all around the background because I just love white splatters. So I use the heat tool to dry off the white splatters and everything else in the background. And now I'm adding some adhesive by running the ATG gun across the back of the foam. And look, it's still on its side. So I put down the cut file and I press it down, attach it down to the paper. And then I decide to add a little bit more color because there's no color underneath the D. So I go back and I do the same thing. I add some more Distress Oxides and I'm spreading the color around. I'm drying it. I'm pretty shocked that I didn't get it all over the cut file. And of course, if I had just positioned the cut file correctly, I wouldn't have had to add this color. Luckily, though, adding the color doesn't end up being a problem when I do finally realize what I did and switch the cut file around so it's in the right direction. And I found that at first, the color that I added didn't look like it was going to match the background, but in time, when the Distress Oxides dry, it seems to me that they fade a little bit and then everything comes together and the colors all look cohesive. I had probably splattered on the bottom of the layout, or what's right now the bottom of the layout, a little bit too much. So I do go back with some gesso and I try to cover up some of those spots. I'm going to need a couple of layers. I take this little journaling card that was in the kit. That was a 49 and mark it die cut, and I'm adding a little to the top and a little bit to the bottom. Then I grab some gesso because I want to put another coat of gesso on those splatters on the bottom. And with a couple of coats, you won't be able to see those excess splatters. And I'm also using the paintbrush to cover up a few little spots of paint that I got on the cut file. So finally, I realized that I had rotated the background. So I removed the cut file and the photo and everything else that was on the background, and I attached them down in the right direction. And now I'm just going back in and adding some paint behind the letter O so that it doesn't fade into the background. And while I'm at it, I decide to add a little bit more blueprint sketch all along that edge. And then I return those journaling pieces to where I had them under the photo and over the photo. And now I'm going to be adding some embellishments. The pink leaves were fussy cut from one of the papers in the collection. The green leaves were die cuts from the 49 and Market die cut sheet that was in the kit. And here I'm using a dauber and some mowed lawn Distress Oxide. And I'm just adding a little bit more color to the leaves just to make them match the background a little bit more. And I really like the way those leaves just kind of fit right into some areas in the background that needed to have some little element added. And then I decided that I would like to have some butterflies all around the page. I thought that I would put a number of them on top of the cut file, but I also wanted to have some in the upper right-hand corner because there's a lot of white space right there, and I just thought a little touch of a butterfly would be really nice. So I am putting some foam on just the wings of the butterflies. And then I put some adhesive down the center and on the foam. And then I press down on the center, and then that makes the wings pop up a little bit from the background. And I'm inking the edges of the butterfly's wings with some black soot Distress Oxide. And I don't show you all of this because it's repetitive, but you could see that I've spread those butterflies all around the cut file. Here I'm adding some of the Prima flowers, and I really like the pink. I thought that the pink looked good against the blue background. Initially, I was just going to add these 2 flowers, but you'll see in the close-ups and in the final layout at the end that I end up adding 1 more flower above the R in your. I just felt that it looked a little unbalanced, so I just popped a little tiny rose in there. And now I'm using a dauber, and I am inking the edges of that die cut that I put on the top and bottom of the photo, and also of some photo corners that I just punched out from the part of the journaling card that I didn't use. And the photo that I used for this layout is of my 2 daughters, my favorite subject, and I just felt like this was a good title for whatever was going on in this photo. I can't tell you exactly, but I just felt like the 2 were a good match. I found these blue pearls in my stash that I thought went really well with the colors in the background. So I added 1 of those to each of the photo corners. And I guess you really can't see the photo corner on the lower left-hand corner of the photo, but I put a pearl on there anyway. Here I'm just making some last-minute adjustments to the butterflies. And now I'm going in and I'm adding some black splatters. I guess I'm kind of adding some black dots. Now, they're not really splatters, but I wanted to have some black on the background. I added some, but in the end, it all got covered up, and I just wanted to have a little touch of black. So I'm just going around and dotting a little bit of paint in a couple of areas. And that is the last touch that I add to this layout. Here are some close-ups of the layout, and you'll notice that I did add that rose over the letter R. I hope that you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope that if you liked it, you'll give it a thumbs up. Please check out the link to the My Creative Scrapbook website in the description box and check out all of their beautiful kits. I hope that everybody has a fantastic day. Please come back again soon. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.